Electroheads. This is the Engwe Engine Pro 2.0, and it's a torque monster. Recently, I filmed a video with the Engwe EP2 Boost, their entry-level model, and I concluded that while it was an excellent budget, fat tyre e-bike proposition, it was lacking in a few certain key areas. The big one being lack of oomph. It struggled to get me up really steep hills, even in the highest pedal assist setting. Well, clearly, Engwe saw that video and said, oh, do we have a bike for you, me old fruit? Because not long after that video went live, this thing arrived at my door, and it's a beastie. So then, Engine Pro 2.0, what's the crack? This is a £1,349 electric bicycle. The EP2 Boost was Engwe's least expensive. This is their most expensive fat tyre bike, although still pretty reasonably priced, I think it's fair to say. But what do you get for your extra 400 smackers? Well, the big one, as mentioned, more torque. The EP2 Boost, I found, struggled a little bit getting me up big steep hills, even in the highest assist setting, even when mashing the boost button. This will not, because that bike maxed out at 55 Newton meters of torque. This one has 75. Same motor, 250 watt brushless hub motor mounted in the rear wheel, totally legal here in the UK. Just got more torque. And remember, torque is strength. You can have all the power in the world, but if you don't have enough torque, you are not getting up that hill. Up here, no boost button, we've gotten rid of that. We just have 5 levels of assist, and the highest level of assist is more assisty. What we do have is an upgraded, colourful LCD screen, which is rather lovely. Battery is upgraded, it's now 768 amp hours, up from 624, but the range has gone down, or the predicted range has gone down to 110 kilometers, down from 120 kilometers, because that extra torque be hungry. Still a lot of range though, isn't it? The brakes are, oh, hang on. The brakes are now hydraulic. That's a big improvement on the EP2 Boost. This is a big, heavy bike, and even with discs, mechanical brakes were quite hard work. These should give me a lot more stopping power with a lot less squeezing involved. We also get rear suspension on the Engine Pro, as well as the forks at the front for even more comfort, along with the squashy seats that we already had. These bikes are primarily targeted at delivery riders who will spend hours at a time in the seat, so comfort is paramount, and this is a welcome addition. Of course, all this comes at the cost of weight. These are heavy bikes. The EP2 Boost, that was 30 kilos, this is more, about 31.6, because, you know, extra suspension and all that. They're foldy bikes, they're not portable bikes. If you're looking for something that you can ride to the office and then drag up some stairs and slide under your desk, this is not for you. But if you're looking for something that splits the difference between a regular bicycle and a motorcycle in terms of comfort and stability while riding, this might be for you. And this is all in addition to the stuff that I already really liked about the Engwe EP2 Boost, like these enormous 20 by 4 inch all-terrain tyres. Nothing short of a sand dune is going to stop you sitting on these things. Nice, wide, damped seat, integrated headlight, mudguards which come as standard, and of course this cargo rack with a maximum load capacity of 25 kilos. It's nice and solid. You can pick the bike up by this if you need to, but you don't have to, because there's actually a really useful grab handle there as well. What I will say is I have a tendency to try and pick it up by the seats, which is not good, and then I find myself having to tighten a screw under there, but I think with time I would just learn to use the handle that they've thoughtfully supplied. Also, I have to applaud Engwe for the colours they choose for these bikes. They're such lovely paint finishes. Look how this green shines in the sun. Ooh, beautiful. Right, this is my first proper ride on this bike. First test up a steep hill. Tried to try it yesterday. Immediately exploded a tyre. My fault, not the bike's fault. I'm heading up a steep hill here on some tarmac, and immediately that extra torque is making a huge amount of difference. I'm in level 5 and I can barely even apply pressure to the pedals. The bike is doing all of the heavy lifting for me. And I want that on an e-bike. I want the option of that, at least. I want a maximum setting where the bike is doing all the work and I just have to turn my feet. And if you're someone that rides hours a day for work, you definitely want that option. Don't get me wrong, I like to get a workout in while I'm riding an e-bike, and if I want to do that, I can just drop it down to, I'm on level 2 now. That's kind of 50-50 now. But I want the option on an e-bike to turn up the assist to a level where I barely have to do anything, especially a bike like this that's supposed to be a workhorse. The EP2 Boost didn't quite have that, and this absolutely does. This bike now has ample torque. Torque sensor, quite nicely dialed as well. You know, the best e-bikes are the ones that make you feel bionic, where you can't even tell where the bike ends and you begin, because they're so fluid in how they assist your efforts. And this is pretty good. A lot better than the EP2 Boost in that regard, I feel. A lot less jerky. Yeah, that's a nice smooth torque sensor. I'm happy with that. But the thing that's really jumping out to me is the ride comfort. The EP2 Boost was my first experience of a fat tyre bike, and I was pretty blown away by just how squashy 20 by 4 inch tyres make things. I was always a bit cynical about these sorts of bikes. Why do people buy these to ride around London? You're not going on the beach. You're not riding through sand. It's only tarmac for the most part, but I got it straight away because of the comfort factor. But I've got full suspension on top of that now. Oh, it's very squashy. You know, we're talking about fairly subtle upgrades here in comparison to the EP2 Boost. Bit of extra torque, a little bit more suspension, but the outcome is a infinitely more luxurious riding experience. Right, let's talk about the foldingness. I have practiced it, and I will now demonstrate seamlessly how to fold this bike into a very, very compact size. Saddle, down. Handlebars, down. Lever, fold. Yeah. Folded. I mean, yeah, like I said, it's not gonna slot into your pigeonhole at work, but what this can do is go into the boot of a medium-sized car. And that means if you want to get out of town for the weekend, hit some gnarly trails, do a bit of off-roading recreationally, you can. And that's a real plus, because this bike, with the suspension, with the torque, with the tyres, is very capable of doing that sort of thing. And this is good as well. Removable battery, pull on the handle, yank it out, take it inside with you. If you store the bike outside or in a garage and there's nowhere to charge nearby, you can just take the battery inside with you and plug it in the comfort of your own home. All e-bikes should have removable batteries. Oh yes. Here's something I love about these fat tyre e-bikes. You go from on-road to off-road and basically the same thing in terms of how it feels. These fat 4-inch wide all-terrain tyres, this full suspension setup, I feel like I could cycle up a cliff face if I wanted to. Generally speaking, I'm someone who likes my bikes really simple. In terms of the stuff I ride around London on, it's no suspension, lightweight, simple, less to go wrong, easy to lug up some stairs. I've always slightly turned my nose up at bikes like this with the full suspension and the big chunky tyres. I just think, what do you need all that for? But it doesn't take long to realise why these are so popular when you jump on one, because it's just such a luxurious experience. It's so effortless. I spoke on the stability when I rode the EP2 Boost. That's here as well. This thing would be very hard to topple over on, even if you were barely paying attention to where you were going, which you should. But I'm just saying, if it's a long day's riding, you missed that pothole because you weren't looking, you'll probably be all right. I mean, look at this. I'm chatting to you on the camera while going through some pretty nasty little bumps and holes there. Easy peasy. I really liked that EP2 Boost, that entry-level model, but it's hard to do an entry-level fat tyre e-bike because they need good components. They're big, heavy bikes. They've got big, chunky tyres, so they need a good amount of torque. They need proper suspension, ideally. They need proper brakes because they're heavy. Ideally, you want a proper torque sensor or it's going to be all jerky, and before you know it, the cost is adding up. I can't help but feel that with that EP2 Boost, they've tried to hit a price point that's just not really realistic to hit and still produce a really complete fat tyre bike. This, on the other hand, still very reasonably priced, still a budget fat tyre, but it's the full, complete package now. It has that effortlessness in the higher assist settings. It's got the braking strength that you really want from a big, heavy bike. And it's ridiculously comfy. A couple of small grumbles. I find the pegs in the lowest position are really near the ground. So if I've got my foot at 6 o'clock and I turn in that direction and I lean, sometimes my heel scrapes the floor. There's also a slightly alarming tendency I've noticed. When I grab the front brake, the wheel kind of shifts, which I think is probably something to do with the fact that I put that wheel on, because the back wheel doesn't do that, I've noticed. What I'm trying to say is, building bikes is hard, and if you're not super confident assembling a bike yourself, I would suggest having a go at it, and then maybe just taking it to a bike shop for a once over before bombing down hills on it. This is not a difficult bike to assemble, but the fine tuning is key, and I'm not sure I've completely nailed it myself on this occasion, if I'm being completely honest. As for real world range, I was able to manage 38 miles from a charge, or around 61 kilometers. Substantially less than the quoted max range, but then again, I weigh close to 100 kilos and was seeking out big steep hills wherever I could. Most importantly, if you're someone that uses your bike for work, that is more than enough range for a full shift of riding. So then, the Engine Pro 2.0, what do we think? Well, shockingly, I think this more expensive bicycle with better bits is better than the EP2 Boost, which is cheaper and has less good bits. I know, astonishing. But actually, I think this is just a better executed product. I think it represents better value for money than the entry-level bike as well. It's not just the extra torque, which is a must-have, but the added rear suspension, the smoother torque sensor, it just feels like a more complete product, especially if you are someone that's going to ride this thing hours and hours every day for work. If that's you, if you're looking for a bike that's going to do big miles for you, that you're going to rely on for your livelihood, I really think if your budget can stretch, it's worth spending that little bit extra for something with hardware that is that cut above, like the proper suspension, like the hydraulic brakes, and like that extra shove of torque that means if you want to, you can have absolutely effortless riding, even when faced with the steepest of hills. So there we go, the Engine Pro 2.0, a properly premium, full suspension, fat tyre, go anywhere e-bike at a tasty price. Do make sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. We'll see you again soon.